Recording.
Well, good morning, everyone. As we get set, I have posted on the screen our speaking order for our international speech contest. So we'll give everybody a minute to write those down if you are judging or would like to keep score by yourself. We will also have someone work to put those in the chat. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of the International Speech Contest is to provide an opportunity for speakers to improve their speaking abilities, to recognize the best as encouragement to all, and to provide an opportunity to learn by observing the more proficient speakers who have benefited from their Toastmaster training. At this time, Madam Chief Judge, have our judges and all of our officials been briefed on the rules?
All contest officials have been briefed. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Contest Chair. The contestants have been briefed and informed of the virtual speaking area and the location of the timer. For our members and guests, first of all, I want to ask our Zoom master, and if you have not already, to please mute yourself. Make sure that all our members and guests are muted. Excuse me. If you have an opportunity when we do start our speaking, if you are able to shut off your video and just put that up there, that will help with our bandwidth in case we do have any problems with that. But again, please remain muted at all times. At this time, I will ask our timer to make a final check of the timing lights. At this time, if our contestants would make sure that they have that timer available and understand the ways of going ahead to pin that timer for their speech. Protests are limited to judges and contestants. The decision of the judges is final. Announcement of the final results will be made this evening at the District 78 closing ceremonies. At this time, we will begin our international Speech contest for District 78. Speaker number one, Rhonda Wooten. Rhonda, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me, Carl?
I hear you fine. Your video is good. Speaker number one, Rhonda Wooten. The Unbreakable Cord. The Unbreakable Cord, Rhonda Wooten.
Imagine this cord representing your life. When you're a child, things are fairly simple. You have few responsibilities and even fewer worries. As you get older, though, things begin to change. Plans and pressures of everyday life keep your cord pulled tight until one day something happens completely out of the blue that you never saw coming. Mr. Contest Chair, that's what happened to me. For many years, I had the great privilege of traveling to one of the most remote and isolated countries on the face of the planet, outer Mongolia. Some of my family members weren't as excited as I was about this opportunity, especially my middle son, Adam. Mongolia just seemed too far away for his liking. After I returned home several years in a row, quite safely, and talked about all the wonderful things that happened on these trips, Adam finally came around. There were a few challenges to traveling in Mongolia. Since I don't speak the Mongolian language, I realized early on that I could only communicate through the help of a translator. I found one in a lovely young woman named Zula, who had studied abroad and learned to speak English fluently. She and I became good friends through the years I went there, and I always connected closely with her and her husband and her two adorable little boys. Her youngest son, Monkule, had the most incredible jet black hair that stuck straight out of his head in all directions. What a cutie. There was one year of my travels that stood out among the rest as the one none of us will ever forget. That year, little 3-year-old Monkule died from a poisonous spider bite. The loss was heartbreaking for all of us. The day after his very emotional funeral, I received word that my son, Adam, had been tragically killed in a horrible accident. These two events, the timing was just unbelievable. How could something like this happen? Perhaps you have learned, as I have, that some of life's greatest lessons come from devastating circumstances like these. My friends, I'd like to share with you 3 of the lessons I've learned in my life. First, no matter how much control you think you may have in your life, something can happen at any time that changes everything. When that occurs, and it will, you have to reevaluate everything you ever thought or believed about control because it is gone like that. In its place comes the humble realization that life is fragile, a gift meant to be cherished and fully lived every day. The second lesson is from what someone anonymously observed about nature. Nature does not live for itself. Rivers don't drink their water. Trees don't eat their own fruit. Flowers in a field don't emit fragrance for their enjoyment. Living for others is a rule of nature. The more we lean into the reality of that rule, the more we discover our purpose in life. Finally, the last lesson is best summarized by that cuddly little honey-loving bear and earnest philosopher, Winnie the Pooh. Pooh says to Piglet, after one particularly trying day, a friend is someone who picks you up when you're down. And if they can't, they lay down beside you and listen. When Zula and I lost our sons at practically the same time, something remarkable took place in our already extraordinary friendship. We gave each other strength and encouragement and hope, even in the darkest moments of our grief and loss. We experienced this truth. A cord alone is vulnerable, left weak and unusable under duress. Two cords alongside each other become unbreakable. When was the last time you were part of an unbreakable cord? Let's all seek opportunities to be the friend that is selfless, that lends a helping hand, or simply be there listening for a chance to help heal a hurting heart. There's never regret in being part of an unbreakable cord. Mr. Contest Chair.
Thank you, Rhonda. May I have 1 minute of silence, please? Ritu, can we have a sound check, please?
Yes, can you hear me?
I can hear you fine and I can see you well. Contestant number 2, Ritu Huda. Relational dynamite. Relational dynamite, Ritu Huda.
Have you ever listened to others and form opinion about someone you never met or barely met once? Raise your hands. Dear fellow opinionated Toastmasters, our brains tend to make assumptions and draw conclusions about people based on their past experiences and the opinion of others. We need to push through that and see people solely based on our experience with them. Today, I'm going to share an experience from my life that changed my perspective and encouraged me to see the world with a more open mind. My goal here is to see people solely based on my experience with them, no matter what their cultural, social, or religious background is. Here is an example from my life that helped crystallize this concept for me. In 2015, a new family joined our community, and we wanted to invite them over for dinner. We laughed, had great conversations, and shared fun and engaging stories. It was a perfect dinner with perfect vibes. I could see there was an immense potential for a great friendship. My heart was also filled with joy when I see my kids were playing in great harmony with their kids. However, sometime later, I noticed a change in their behavior when I met them at a community get-together. The family seemed like strangers, and I didn't know why. For some time later, we had limited conversations every time we meet at the community get-togethers. 4 years passed, and the family decided to move on a different adventure. To bid them farewell, we invited them again for dinner. After dinner, the wife apologized and said something that just shocked me. A mutual friend of ours had warned them not to be friends with us because, in her opinion, one of my daughters has dyslexia. At that time, I didn't know what dyslexia is. Out of curiosity, I asked, "Oh, what is dyslexia?" Her erroneous definition was a mentally challenged kid with learning disabilities. For a few seconds, I was numb. Inside me, there was a volcano of emotions just ready to erupt. The only thing I could think of at that time was a meditation session by our own Semi Hauge. I recollected and bring my emotions back. I was thinking so sad that for 4 years, my daughter was perceived by someone as being mentally challenged. It's even questionable, what if my daughter actually has dyslexia? And how would it matter in family friendships? At that time, the mama bear in me couldn't help but think, I'm glad I'm not friends with you. Most of the time, these flawed stories we make up in our head are defense mechanisms. They're othering an easy way to create a feeling of superiority and a way to protect oneself. What we don't realize, we end up hurting ourselves and end up hurting others. This preemptive bias can sabotage what could have been a wonderful relationship, but it ended up in a relational dynamite. Fellow friends, there is already a lot of chaos going into the world. We are still having a pandemic for the last two and a half years. We did lose a lot of our loved ones in that. And right now, we are witnessing a never-ending war between two countries. What we don't realize, we are losing a lot of precious lives as part of this process. At least we can do some simple things to help us and help others. Dear friends, I made a promise to myself that day. Watch what you say about others. A wrong assumption or an opinion from others can be devastating. It affected me mentally, personally, emotionally, and most importantly, it affected my daughter. Please don't let assumptions and opinions ruin a potential friendship. Madam Contest Chair.
Thank you, Ritu. Madam Timer, may I have 1 minute for our judges to complete their ballots? Thank you, Madam Timer. Roy, can we have a sound check, please?
Testing from Roy.
Roy, we can hear you and see you. Contestant number 3, Roy Wilcox. Do your part. Do your part, Roy Wilcox.
Have you ever had that urge to join an organization? Friends, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished trio, and contest chair. I was 6 years into my business, and I just felt it was time in my community of 12,000 people to get involved. I didn't know what to join, what to get involved with. There was the Lions, the Kiwanis, the Rotary, the Optimist, lots of organizations. I was thinking through this. Well, then one day in my office walks a gentleman named Johnny Boss. He introduced himself. He was the local Kirby vacuum dealer. He was a member of Toastmasters. He introduced himself and said, Roy, I'm here to invite you to one of our meetings. It's Toastmasters. I said, oh, what's that all about? Well, let me just ask you this question. Do you communicate a lot with your clients? I said, yes, I do. Well, would you like to be a better communicator? Now that's a setup question, because as a guy in my position that wants to be successful, I'm going to say no. I said, of course, I would like to be a better communicator. He said, well, why don't you just come to one of our meetings? And I said, well, what's your meeting about? Well, we're a fun group that gets together and works on our communication skills. He kept it very simple. The next day, I went to their meeting. I walk in the door. I'm greeted with a nice handshake and a great big smile. Welcome, Roy. Johnny Boss said you were coming. You're his guest today. Yes, indeed, I felt good about that welcome. They handed me a packet, and in it was information on Toastmasters, the list of people in the club, and the duties that were going to be done that day, well organized, and I had a seat, and the meeting started, and the first thing they did was introduce me as Johnny's guest. After that, they went around the room and had everyone introduce themselves and how long they'd been in Toastmasters, and maybe a short comment if they wish. That was quick, but it was kind and it was heartwarming. I listened to the meeting. It was extremely organized. They flowed through the meeting and they had some long speeches and some that were a little bit short, quite a few of them. And the meeting came to an end. Well, anyway, after the meeting, I was getting ready to leave, and the person that welcomed me to the door, in the door, came up to me and said, Roy, thank you for coming. I was elated. I left that meeting. The next day, I went to another organization meeting, quite different. I walk in, there's people over in the corner. No one really paid any attention. One guy turned around and gave me eye contact, didn't come over to me. I walked over to him. I introduced myself. I'm here at your organization just to know more about it. Fine, that's okay. So I sat down to be in the meeting. They went through their meeting schedule, spent their quick hour, should we say, and the meeting come to an end. And I got up ready to leave, and no one came to greet me farewell. So I walked over to the guy that I talked to begin with, and I said, thank you for letting me come to this meeting. The next week, I went back to the Toastmaster meeting. Oh, it was the same thing, the friendly smile, the handshake, good meeting. The meeting come to an end, hook, line, and sinker, I was caught. I joined Toastmasters at that time. I felt good about it. And I was in Toastmasters for some time. About 5 years later, once I built up enough confidence from what I learned in Toastmasters, I ran for an office position in that second organization, and I was elected in to be on the board of trustees. The first meeting I attended, they were short 2 members, and we discussed on how to get new people in. 2 new people came the next time. I took it on my part that we introduce everybody to get acquainted. Hey, that's what we do in Toastmasters. I just carried that skill that I learned over to the church board. For the next 15 years, I went through the trustees, the executive council, and eventually I was the president of an 1,800 congregation. That's scary for a lot of people. And there were some very, very qualified people, but they were scared to do it. Because of Toastmasters, I did it. I got involved. I used Toastmasters to help me in this organization. Yes, it was way back when Johnny Boss asked me to join Toastmasters. Now, I propose to you that when we had our meeting Tuesday night, we're talking about realignment and losing people. Well, they move away. They pass away. They finally achieve enough from Toastmasters to do what they have to do in leading an organization or whatever it might be. Or they may have a job schedule. Folks, we have to constantly replace the lost members. The Toastmaster Promise has 10 parts. Number 8, promise to bring guests to club meetings so they can see the benefits Toastmasters memberships offers. Ladies and gentlemen, Toastmaster friends, do your part. Contest chair.
Thank you, Roy. Madam Timer, 1 minute for our judges. Thank you, Madam Timer. Charlie, may we have a sound check, please?
One, two, three, checking.
Thank you, Charlie. We can hear and see you. Contestant number 4, Charlie Sabinga. Always applaud service. Always applaud service. Charlie Sabinga.
Imagine yourself at a local sporting event. As the buzzer sounds, your team scores the winning points. The crowd gives out a big cheer. Yay! You high five your friends. The next day, you're back at work, wondering, why am I doing this? The thrill of victory is short-lived, but the agony of defeat can live on and on and on. Have you ever felt defeated by life? Last year's data showed that suicide was at the highest rate ever. Perhaps that's because we cheer the champs too much and forget to applaud the service we all do daily. A couple of years ago, a lady friend asked me, Charlie, will you go to a play on suicide with me? What? Bonnie, you think I'm suicidal? No, Charlie. It's just that my nephew committed suicide 4 years ago. My son and him played a lot together. I just need somebody to be with me. Of course, Bonnie, I'll go with you. Who comes to your mind when suicide is talked about? I had an uncle that hung himself. 2 church members and a lady I took on a couple dates. Suicide is scary to talk about. You can't solve a problem you won't talk about. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters. I don't believe there's one simple solution to stop these tragedies. However, I believe if we would applaud service a lot more, we could stop a lot of these tragedies from happening. How could something so simple change something so tragic? Let me finish Patrick's story. The play we went to was called Every Brilliant Thing. The message of the play was if you just made a list of all the good things in your life, it would stop you from committing suicide. After the play, Bonnie handed me this book. What's this for? Charlie, that book has the memoirs of 47 suicide victims. Patrick's memoir is in there. It was written by his mom. Wow, Bonnie. That must have taken a lot of courage for her to write. She wrote it hoping it would save somebody from feeling her pain and give Patrick's life some meaning. Tracy wrote, Patrick Joseph Rassley was born on December 23rd, 1995. He weighed 8 pounds, 12 ounces. I took him home Christmas morning. Patrick was always a good boy. He could light up a room with a smile and he made friends with everybody. Patrick was a good football player in high school and decided to go to college and play football. Patrick came home for Christmas break after his first semester. He seemed perfectly normal. We celebrated his 19th birthday and then he went back to college. But before he left, I asked him several times, Patrick, what classes are you taking next semester? Mom, I'll text them to you later. Those words still haunt me. I should have pressed for an answer. Actually, the truth is, he never registered for any classes because he had failed all his classes and washed out in football. He checked out of his dorm room, lived in his car for 4 days, and then he was such a good boy. I believe Patrick thought he needed to be a champ in order to be loved. When I was in my 20s, I thought I needed to be a champ to be loved. By the time I was 24, I had started a business and was married. 4 years later, my business was a failure and my marriage was on the rocks. I had thoughts of suicide, but I remember my mother saying, Charlie, I'm so amazed at all the bales you got stacked in just a few hours. Thank you for all the chores you do on this farm. She applauded my service daily. I believe that's what saved my life. You live in a competitive world and see champs being cheered always. Perhaps you're feeling depressed because you've never been applauded for anything. Be the change you want to see. Let's all applaud the people that made this contest possible. Yay. Applaud everyone that has ever served you. Remember, always applaud service. It could save the life of someone you love. And that's something we can all cheer about. Yay. Contest chair.
Thank you, Charlie. Madam Timer, 1 minute, please, for our judges. Thank you, Madam Timer. Lacey, may we have a sound check, please?
I'm ready.
Very good. We can see and hear you fine. Contestant number 5, Lacey Swan. You can make a difference. You can make a difference, Lacey Swan.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can make a difference. I know you hear that. I have to do this crazy, enormous thing to make a difference. But can I just say a lot of small things with a lot of people can make a huge difference? And now is the time. You see, suicidal rates, they're skyrocketing. They are going up when they are going down. And when I saw the numbers for tween girls, suicidal rates ages 10 to 14 with tween girls have tripled. I just didn't even know this was a thing. So little. Like, how can that be? How could it be? This could have been me. You see, I did not have the best home life growing up. After school, I would want to go anywhere but home. I was that girl that parents were like, why is this girl always at our house? Yep, that was me. I didn't know what I was going to come home to. Would my mom be passed out, drunk on the floor? Possibly. Would my dad be back in his room, depressed, sleeping a day away, letting the bills pack up? Oh yeah, he always was. And sometimes he was there to like argue with my mom or pick on me and say bad things about me, a little girl. But when I got in my room, I was safe in my room. I had everything I need in my room. I had art supplies galore. I had paints, markers, you name it. And I created. I created a world where I could be anything. My imagination, it just flew. I could be anything in this world. No one told me I was not enough. No one told me I was not smart enough. And no one told me I was not pretty enough in this world. I could be anything in this world. And I was safe, me and my art. Well, flash forward now, you see a grown-up gal here who's made a whole career out of art. And it's been a lot of fun. My art has been featured in Japan to North Dakota, from California to New York City. And I've created a lot of products, so many fun products with my art all over them. And one of them just happens to be for tween girls, right? And it's all about building confidence, building self-esteem, creativity, friendship, kindness. It's a coincidence, right? Just like so random. Of course, I'm an artist. Well, I'm looking at these numbers and they're looking back at me. And the dots, they're starting to connect because people meet me and they're like, I would never know this about you. I came out of the fire without smelling like smoke. And the dots are connecting because I'm realizing I did not create it out of random. I couldn't have. I'm realizing I created this product because art had saved me when I was that age. And so, just like Steve Jobs says, he says, you cannot connect the dots. You can't see them looking forward. You can only see them looking backwards. And just like in his career, things started to line up. I'm looking back at my path and things are lining up. I can now see how I can influence the next generation. Because when you find your why, you find your way. And I found my way. Because my purpose, it gives me motivation now. And when the no's are going to come, and you know they're going to come, I'm going to be strong because it's not about me anymore. I found my why. That little girl in that bedroom with her arts and crafts, she was making herself strong. That little girl, she was building up her self-esteem, her confidence. Outside those four walls that were crazy and scary and chaotic, she was building herself strong. And so now when I share my coloring book, I am going to be like, keep going like, hey, Oprah, hey, Today Show, it's Lacey Swan. I know, again, because it's not about me anymore. Because who is going to lose if I do not win, right? I found my why. And I learned I can take a small gift and I can make it big. You too, ladies and gentlemen, can take a small thing and you can make it big. You can look back just like I looked at the dots and see what kind of gift you can to help others. Your gift will make room for you. You can create new paths to inspire the next generation. You have power, my friend. You have the power in your tongue. What you say, that compliment can last a lifetime. Those words could stop someone from harming themselves. You have the power, my friend. You do. You have the power in your purse, right? What you purchase, what you spend from your pocketbook can make a huge difference. There are millions of ways to make a difference. You have the power. You can and you must. This next generation, they are counting on you and they are counting on me. So I am off to paint the world a little more colorful, kinder, brighter, happier place. What are you going to do? Because someone else, who's going to lose if you do not win? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Lacey. At this time, we will take 2 minutes of silence for our judges to complete their ballots. Thank you, everyone, for your patience while our judges have completed their ballot and our team gets into tally the results. This time, we are going to have the part that I enjoy most at our contest, and that is interviewing our contestants. And I would like to start out with our first contestant. Please welcome back Rhonda Wooten. Welcome back, Rhonda.
Hi, Carl. Sorry, that lighting is not great.
Oh, that is perfect. If you're like us here in Rapid City, it's nice to be able to see the sun out once in a while.
Amen to that. That is so true. Yep.
So Rhonda, please tell us your club name, where your club is at, and how long have you been in Toastmasters?
My club is located in Helena, Montana. We are number 5063, Last Chance Toastmasters, and I'm privileged to be the president of that club.
Very good. Thank you. And did you mention how long you've been in Toastmasters?
I have only been in Toastmasters 2.5 years, but in that time, I feel as though I have learned and grown so much, which was really the whole reason why I joined Toastmasters.
Very good. Rhonda, I see you have one of our favorite occupations or employers that you listed, and that is retired. Did
Yes.
you join Toastmasters after or while you were still working?
While I was still working, I really was encouraged by my husband to take early retirement. So I was fortunate enough to be able to do that.
Very good. And we are glad you stuck with Toastmasters. Some of your interesting hobbies are gardening, crafts, bike riding, but the one that I think you're probably most proud of is spending time with your grandsons. Tell us a little bit about that.
That is so true. I have 10 grandsons and one on the way coming in July. Now, I had all boys myself, 3 sons, and now I have these 11 grandsons. I think God just must think I do boys better than girls. That's all I can figure, but we sure do have a lot of fun.
Well, that's good. That's a good thing to be retired where you can spend that time.
Right.
Your favorite quote says, start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. Why does that motivate you?
That motivates me in so many ways. The most recent, probably in the news or in our consciousness, the person that comes to mind most readily is Tiger Woods. After that amazing comeback that he made, coming back to the Masters after an accident that he thought ended his career, and he was just feeling lucky to be alive. But then to see him walking that golf course after it took him months and months of rehabilitation, to me, that just was such an inspiration. And just kind of, I think, gave us all a little bit of a pause to say, you know what? I can overcome difficulties in my life too. That was truly an inspiration.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you for entertaining us this morning, and we wish you the best with your grandsons and your Toastmaster career.
We're going to start a hockey team, I think.
There we go. You've got enough boys to do that. That's
right.
a good thing to do. Thank you, Rhonda. I would like to call up Ritu.
Hey, Carl.
Ritu, welcome back. Again, your club, how long you've been in Toastmasters, and where you're located.
I am with the Brookings Toastmasters Club 3712, Go Jacks. And I am from Brookings, South Dakota.
Very good. I am also a jackrabbit, but we won't tell you when we went to school there. So what got you into Toastmasters, Ritu?
I have been in Toastmasters for last 6 years. I originally came from India, and I was talking to my manager that I want to improve my communication skills. My manager said, "Have you heard about Toastmasters?" And I was like, "No, what is that?" And she said, "Well, get ready on Monday at noon, and I will take you there."
Well, very good. I see if you've been in Toastmasters 6 years, you have already achieved your DTM. We congratulate you on that. And what do you remember as being the motivation to go ahead and complete your DTM?
I always like challenges, Carl. That's part of my personality, and taking baby steps. And of course, we did that old manual, traditional manual at the time, and I was done with my competent communication. I was like, I haven't done anything in the leadership. Let's take a look at the leadership. And I started completing them one after the other. Then I got the opportunity to start the Watertown Club. And I was like, okay, well, I think I'm right on my journey. I just kept going. I would also give a lot of credit to my fellow Toastmasters. There were 3 of us in the group, and we were kind of challenging each other to take the next step. That was really interesting because one of our fellow Toastmasters actually joined 2 clubs during that time because she wanted to get a DTM too.
Very good. I see in your interests and hobbies, you list playing badminton. What got you interested in badminton?
Again, as I said, I'm originally from India. Badminton is a very popular sport back home in India. And my wrist have some issues, so I can never play tennis. When I joined the wellness center here at Brookings, I was amazed that there you can set up badminton courts. And then I talked to a couple of my Indian friends. Okay, let's play badminton on the weekends. And we do play badminton pretty much 2 to 3 hours every weekend. Yep.
Very good. Not something you normally see, but I'm sure that is a whole lot of fun. You list your favorite quote as, "Don't sit down and wait for opportunities to come. Get up and make them." Why does that inspire you?
I guess that's part of my personality, Carl. Right from my childhood, I am like that. If I achieve something, I always take a look, what's next that is down the pipeline. And of course, when I joined as a business intent, I joined as a database developer in the company I'm working for. I always look forward that, okay, I have 1 to 2 hours of free time. What more I can do during that free time? And then I asked my manager, what is something new I can work on? And of course, she provided me some more directions, and I started learning some new things. And that's why I think you cannot just go and ask for a new job. You consistently create opportunities for yourself by working towards them, by changing what you are working on, or adding new responsibilities as part of your job. So that always motivates me. You create opportunities for yourself, and of course, people see that in you.
Thank you, Ritu. Again, we appreciate you participating as a contestant today, and good luck in your Toastmaster and professional career.
Thanks, Carl.
Charlie, we still out there?
Unmute myself. Hello?
There you are, Charlie. Charlie, your home club, where you're located at, and how long have you been in Toastmasters?
My home club is Four Corners Toastmasters. I live in Bozeman, Montana. I've been in Toastmasters almost consistently for 14, 15 years. Took a little time off during the pandemic, but otherwise I've been involved.
Well, welcome back. You list as your employer or your occupation as self. As a self-employed person, have you ever gotten into any arguments with yourself, and who wins?
Yeah, that's a good question. Have I got into any arguments with this? I argue with myself daily. It's a challenge to keep motivated and what to do next. And so I'm always in a discussion whether whether I should do this or do that. And it's a real challenge to figure out how to do something profitably.
Would you recommend being an entrepreneur to others out there?
I think it takes a special skill set to be an entrepreneur. And I also think it takes a special skill set to be in whatever career path you choose. If you have the skill and you have the courage to take on being an entrepreneur, God bless you in trying it.
Thank you, Charlie. This is not your first speech contest. What is your motivation and what would you say to others to motivate them to become involved in speech contests?
The biggest reason to be involved in speech contests is it forces you to grow. We all like to win. We all want to be a champ, but we need to focus on growth and service to other people. And I think that if you learn to communicate well, you can be a better service to others.
And what inspires you most is challenges. Can you give us an example of a challenge that you were able to overcome?
Well, challenges are what winning speech contests is about. It's a challenge to put together a good speech and communicate something of worth. The challenges, one of the challenges I overcame, which was really a goal to create something of worth, was getting a patent on a machine and making that and having that machine be of service to farmers. And that was a challenge that took me about 20 years to get done. And but it was worthwhile to see that accomplished.
Very good. So making hay has a different meaning to you sometimes too.
Yes.
Charlie, we want to thank you. It was good to see you again. I know one of the bad things about the pandemic is that we haven't been able to see a lot of other people in person. So from my standpoint, it was good to see you again and hope you are doing well. And again, continued luck in your Toastmaster career.
Thank you, Carl.
At this time, we will not be interviewing our fourth contestant, Roy Wilcox, as he is participating in the Tall Tales contest. So I would like to welcome back Lacey Swan. Welcome back, Lacey.
Thank you, Carl.
Good to see you again.
Yes.
Again, you are an entrepreneur also, but first tell us about your club, how long you've been in Toastmasters, and where you're located, please.
Sure. I live in Walhalla, North Dakota, and my club is Powerhouse in Grand Forks, North Dakota. I joined in 2020 when the pandemic hit, and I live about 2 hours north. And I was like, this is I've always wanted to be part of Toastmasters. And I was like, I think I can join because everything is going virtual. So it worked out in my favor. And yeah, I've really enjoyed being part of the club.
So being an entrepreneur, do you get along with yourself?
Oh yeah, of course. You have to, right? You have to be your best cheerleader. I'm my biggest cheerleader because it's tough. It's definitely tough out there.
You don't have a boss to motivate you sometimes.
Yeah, you got to have a morning routine. You got to have rituals. Motivational speakers, right? I love to listen to motivational speakers, and I'm surrounded by lots of other business gals. So we just encourage each other. We keep lifting each other up. So you got to have a good network of people who are in the same field as you to keep you motivated.
That's good. So networking is very, very important, and really no matter what you do.
Yes.
So under your notable accomplishments, Lacey, you have your art, and I've enjoyed seeing what is up behind you. At what point do you say, I want to take my art, my hobby, and make it my business?
Well, I I started in the fashion industry in New York City. I always loved art. And I was just like, how can I make money? I'll go fashion. Fashion can make money. And my mom was like, no, you have to sew, and you hate sewing. I'm like, fashion designers, they don't sew, Mom, they don't sew. Well, I got there and I found out you do have to do all that stuff when you get there in school. And I was working for many companies, but I was always creating on the side. Like, I just couldn't help myself. I would make like little cards, little gifts if it was someone's, baby shower. And I was always making things on the side. And my last job at New York and Company, my boss, like, she'd get there, I had to be at 7 a.m. to midnight. And she's like, you don't go home until I go home. I was like, I quit. From that day on, I've always been my own boss because that was crazy. So that was the pull.
Very good. Yep. Decisions that sometimes we would all like to make if we always worked for others. It says on your interest in hobbies that you love to cook and garden. Do you use your gardening in your cooking?
Well, I just started a garden last year, so I'm still really new, but I had like some window garden too. And then I had some on the farm, but it didn't quite work. But I use all my uncle's vegetables to cook. So yeah, I love to cook with home grain vegetables. So I'm still a new gardener. So if anyone has any tips, I'm getting my green thumb. Is that what they call it? I had to find a new hobby, right? Because my career has become my hobby.
That is good, except there are different parts of the country that may have a little better growing season than Valhalla, North Dakota. On your list of quotes, you have a quote that says, if you fall on your back. You can look up, you can get up.
Yeah, by
Is that
Les
important
Brown.
to you?
Yeah, if you're gonna fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up, right? Yeah, I love that verse. I just love Les Brown. He's very motivational. I read his book, his dreams, dream big, and it just made a huge impact in my life. And I love that because it just reminds, like, we all fall sometimes, right? You can't stay on the ground. And if you can like just look up, then you can get up, right? If you just see, you're eventually gonna get up. So yes.
Very good. Thank you, Lacey. We again thank you for participating in our speech contest, and best of luck in your career and in Toastmasters.
Thank you so much.
At this time, I am not sure. I have not heard anything from our chief judge on how we are doing on our results. Again, you don't get to hear them when we do get them, but they are still working. I do want to make a couple of announcements here. Our District 78 Tall Tales contest, our second contest. If you haven't been to a Tall Tales contest, you are in for a treat. We will have a little bit of a break after this contest before our Tall Tales contest, but that will begin with our judges and contestants briefing at noon Mountain, 1 o'clock Central, and then our contest will begin at 15 minutes past the hour. Also on our agenda for this afternoon, after our Tall Tales contest, we will have a little bit of a session on pathways. There are still a lot of thoughts out there on pathways, and we would love to have you attend if you've got some time on a Saturday afternoon to be able to participate in that. And again, starting at 4 o'clock Mountain, 5 o'clock Central Time will be our closing ceremonies. We have a keynote speaker, Harold Osmondson, who is our Region 4 director. I've known Harold for many years in Toastmasters, and he will be a great person to conclude our conference. But we are still going to hold off on making those announcements of our contest winners. So far, I hope that everybody has been enjoying the conference so far. And since I can only tap dance so much, I would like to hear if anybody would like to just pop in and give us your thoughts on what you've enjoyed most about this year's conference. Jim, I know you got an opinion. You can always get us started.
You know, just being invited to participate and be a presenter is truly an honor. You know, the book that I reviewed, How to Get Ideas, it is one of those books. It's much like the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, that I read years ago. I've used that as a background for a Bible study, and then this book on how to get ideas. I find that every tip that I've ever needed to learn as growing in Toastmaster is in that book, and the 10 tips. And actually, there's 5 sub-tips within the 10 tips. So that information, and please review it. Watch the recording of it if you weren't there live. And someone there posted on site, and I love this idea of posting your favorite books or having your club develop a reading list and submitting it. A friend of mine that I met about 15 years ago was at a conference as a keynote speaker. I didn't know this gentleman when we first came to the conference, but it came in and somebody said that Dr. So-and-so was a Brazilian. Well, being married to a Brazilian and speaking Portuguese, somebody brought him over to me and introduced him to me. And of course, the first words were out of my mouth were in Portuguese. And for the next 15 minutes, we just stood there and had the greatest time speaking Portuguese. And we had probably 30 people around us like, what are those guys talking about? But anyway, he's the one from the Kellogg Foundation, the breakfast food people, that got us onto this idea of putting together a book reading list, motivational or otherwise, for your Toastmasters Club. Back to you, Carl.
Thank you, Jim. One of the things that we have work to do this year is, if you were not able to participate in the educational sessions, those things that were throughout the week, we have recorded all of those, and we will be working over the next couple of days to get those posted. Since we had concurrent sessions, I know I was only able to choose 1 out of the 3 concurrent sessions. So I am looking forward to getting a chance to see that. This is an opportunity that we haven't had in the past. It's great to see each other in person, but if there are some benefits to a virtual conference, it's the opportunity that you get to see things that you weren't able to get to. Anybody else out there have a comment on our conference this year or something that you may have enjoyed?
Hey, Carl, this is Derek Smith, by the way, from Speakeasy Club. And I just want you to know that the conference was very huge hit for everyone joining in and listening to the conference, but little technical difficulties from Jen. But other than that, I'm doing a podcast called Inclusion and Fusion Podcast for Special Olympics South Dakota. I highly recommend it to anyone to listen in. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. We had a little bit of people questioning when we first came out and said our District 78 conference is going to go from Tuesday through Saturday. I think this may have scared a few people a little bit, but so far the idea has been good. I want to thank all those that participated in our business meeting on Tuesday. For me as district director, it was good to get that meeting out of the way. It's something we've always held on Saturdays. It always broke up that day, but today we can just enjoy, but it was great to get that out of the way. We also want to thank, or I want to thank all those that participated in that. This conference is something that one person cannot do alone. So we want to thank all those that were part of, whether you planned, whether you participated, whether you hosted, whether you were a technical person. It is all something that we all had a part of. So if you haven't been involved, next year is a good time to step up, raise that hand and say, I'd like to volunteer. It is a very rewarding experience. Anybody else with a comment on the conference so far?
Hey,
Wes?
Carl. Hey, good morning, everyone. I think the thing that I am enjoying the most is just all of the collaboration inside of Whova and the people engaging each other through side conversations. And if you haven't been to the communication part of the Whova conference and seen all the conversations that are going on between the different participants, go check it out. There's a lot of just really neat side conversations, questions about leadership, questions about Toastmasters, just ways to get to know each other. And it's just really cool to pop into the Whova app or out on the website and just, spend 5-10 minutes browsing through those, throw a comment out yourself, let people get to know you. I think it's really great watching all the different personalities and cultures from across our district kind of come together and blend to create this really District 78 culture.
Thank you, Wes. And I see our chief judge has popped up. Katie, without revealing anything, have our judges and the committee made their decision on our winners?
Yes, our winners have been identified.
Yes. And I don't want to know until that time. So I'm going
Got
to
it.
join you in just having as much fun, but we will have that information. Wes, would you like to welcome folks to the Tall Tales Conference? Our contest, not conference.
Absolutely. So as Carl mentioned before, our Tall Tales contest will be beginning at 12:15 Mountain Time. That's 1:15 Central Time. That's right after a 15-minute briefing with the contestants and the judges. If you don't have anything going on during that time, please come back and join us. It's going to be a lot of fun. We have a great lineup of contestants this year. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you, everyone, for attending this contest. Once more, it does take a lot of folks to be able to put this together, but when everybody does their part, we have a wonderful, wonderful contest. I want to close by thanking again all of our judges, contest officials, and everybody that was a part of this, and especially to you as participants for encouraging and listening to our contestants. At this time, I will close out our division, our District 78 International Speech Contest, and see everyone back this afternoon. Thank you all for coming and attending. This contest is completed.